Hi, this is a video about The Spy and the Traitor by Ben Macintyre. This came out in 2018 and is the true story of a KGB colonel who was spying for MI6 during the 70s and 80s in a very high stakes way. First thing I have to say about this is it is incredibly well written. There are so many names and there's also so much historical context that he has to pack in, and it's woven fantastically. Like, you always feel like you know what's going on without being overloaded with information, and it does a really good job of showing the tension at different parts of the Cold War, and really kind of puts you into the mind of what people must have been feeling then. I learned so much in this book because I feel like with spy novels you're never really sure whether how realistic anything is because it's fictional, but this was a true story. So when they have these crazy escape plans and code names and gadgets, it's all true. Oleg Gordievsky is recruited in Copenhagen in the 70s by some Danish officers, but they hand it over to MI6 because it's just quite a big deal. And then, so he's spying in Copenhagen for a couple of years, and then he goes back to Moscow, and there's basically no contact while he's in Moscow. And then he gets dispatched to London. So he becomes the head of political intelligence inside of the London KGB place. Most of them are diplomats, but there are quite a few KGB officers in any embassy in the world at this point in time. So a lot of the intelligence he's giving MI6 is super valuable, but they can't actually act on it because he's still within the KGB. And if they go and pick off any double agents for other intelligence services that he knows because he's got that information from inside the KGB, they'll be able to figure out who it was that gave them that information, and then he would be tortured and executed, basically. So it's such a strange dynamic, and I really think it speaks to the hubris of humanity when it's these intelligence wars of maybe everyone actually knows everything. There's a decent amount of spies in each camp, but no one can act on it because they can't make the move. It's such a game of cat and mouse, and this book does a fantastic job of explaining that dynamic. Someone that comes off incredibly well in this book that was unexpected to me is Margaret Thatcher. She takes a personal interest in Gordievsky and his safety, which is really quite touching. But there's so many things behind closed doors that we wouldn't have known as the public at that time that massively informed her decisions and the way she acted. I didn't know that the Soviet Russia supported miners' strikes. News to me, that's wild. And when Thatcher met Gorbachev for the first time, because he was the head of political intelligence in London, he had to inform the KGB how he expected that Britain to interact. But obviously that was all being passed through the British government. So he kind of was key to orchestrating this diplomatic meeting and could control both sides and therefore leverage it in however the Brits wanted to act. Does that make sense? And in many ways, that example, he's had such enormous political influence over the outcome of the Cold War. I think Gordievsky is a fantastic subject for a book like this, because he is quite relatable. His reasons for spying were completely ideological. So he saw the construction of the Berlin Wall, and you also saw the quashing of the Prague Spring in 1968. And never asked for any money, but was just doing it because he thought it was right. And you see the toil this takes on him and having to keep it from his family and knowing that he was betraying a lot of the people around him that he cared about personally, and you really get an inside look into how he had to get through life like that. He really enjoyed Western literature and music and just thought it was really sad that people in Soviet Russia didn't have access to this gorgeous music that was in the West and were being culturally deprived. And he just thought that was so wrong that he was willing to put his whole life at stake and get involved in this big boy game, and you know, was willing to do that for the world. In contrast to that, we also get a look into the story of Aldrich Ames, who was kind of Gordievsky's counterpart, who was a intelligence officer in the CIA, was kind of like not particularly competent, but not too bad that he kind of just like stuck around. And he got engaged to this Brazilian woman who had really high standards, and he was just really greedy and was like, I need more money. I need money to buy a car and to support my new wife. And he sold out dozens of agents to the KGB in exchange for money, and was just so incredibly greedy. And that in contrast to this wonderful ideological reasoning from Gordievsky, who just wanted people to have the music, was really touching. And also like, fuck you Americans. Not you Americans, but he just undid so much good that was being done from our side. Anyway, it all worked out in the end. My main criticism of it was that it was trying to act as if it was a thriller, but then also sometimes acting as if it was a biographical document. So it would kind of like leave you hanging at the end of a like chapter and say, but like, is he going to do this thing? And then within like 50 pages, it was like, this is the, you know, you can see on this page a map of the escape route. And then the actual map just like totally spoils what happens. It does say like on the back kind of how things end up. But I wanted to go into this completely blind and read it kind of as if it were a thriller and not be spoiled by things. But they also has these two like photo sections of pages, which also talk about things that haven't happened yet. Yeah, and you can know the broad outline of the story, and there still be some things that it's really nice to learn as you read. So yeah, I think it's just a really enjoyable thing to read blind. But if you wanted to do that, avoid the photos and avoid the footnotes, because that will fuck you over. So this has been a review of The Spy and the Traitor by Ben Macintyre. Let me know if you want to read it, because I thought it was fantastic, and that's enough Cold War books for me this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.